Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back. Wrong one, this isn't quite basic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different than usual because we are going to incorporate the weekend's action into it. I didn't think it was relevant to do a separate video. There isn't enough that I believe the vast majority are going to want to pay attention to for that to be viable. And I am on a bit of a schedule for today and possibly tomorrow as well. So we got some things that we need to talk about. Towards the end of the video, we're going to do a couple of predictions, and yeah, we're going to see if I'm right, if I'm wrong, if so, how so. And yeah, you guys can put your thoughts down in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get into it. So it was officially announced yesterday, I believe, that we've got our 5th installment of the Ring Magazine boxing cards that are going to be taking place. Now, I know this one is going to be free of charge, as it does fall after the 22nd of November, which I believe is the last date that any Ring or Riyadh season cards will be pay-per-view on the DAZN platform. This one is called The Way of the Samurai. You know, you might say a little bit of plagiarism there, maybe a little bit of I don't know, stereotyping, but you know, such as life. It does feature an all Japanese superstar based card, especially on the A sides. They're not just facing, you know, other Japanese people. They are basically, it's almost like Japan versus the world. That's the way it's kind of been framed. It is taking place in Saudi Arabia, and it is co-headlined by both Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani. Now, these are basically interim bouts before the two are scheduled to face each other next year. Maybe in the first half of the year, possibly they might try and stretch it out towards that big December New Year's Eve date that they love to do in Japan. I don't know if they will wait that long because they do like to sort of do things in a timely fashion, but that does normally be their that is usually their, I guess, their biggest fight night of the, you know, of the year. Not sure why, but that's normally a date that they do like. Now this one is taking place in Saudi Arabia, which some people have said, well, why have you got so many of these big Japanese stars, you know, fighting in Saudi Arabia so far away from their, you know, I guess their home territory, their fan base or whatnot. Look, ultimately, if Ring, Turki Al-Sheikh and his team, if they're the ones putting up the money, they get to say where it is. And I guess the saving grace for it, none of the Japanese stars are facing like fellow Japanese stars from what I can remember, from what I remember seeing before. So, you know, if you've got, you know, if they're facing, say, a Mexican American, or if they're facing like an Argentinian or a Brit or something like that, that doesn't need to be in Japan necessarily, especially when this fight is, they're good fights, but these aren't like the mega fight they've asked for. Now, don't get me wrong, if it was Naoya Inoue versus Junto Nakatani and that was in Riyadh, I would have something to say about that. I'd have something to say if it was in America. Even if it was over here, trust me, I'm going, but I would still say it shouldn't be over here. And it's a disrespect to the Japanese audience that has, you know, put their time, money and investment behind those two. So when that fight comes around, I do expect it to take place in Japan, probably in the Tokyo Dome, and there will be no qualms about that. But since these are so, you know, quote unquote interim bouts, I don't really see a problem with it. You know, like I said, they're facing different people, so it's, I guess, just giving the, you know, the Saudi Arabian people and maybe even like expats or the Brits who want to travel over there an opportunity to see some of these you know, Japanese fighters that they may not otherwise get a chance to see. Now, if I remember correctly, so Inoue is facing is it David Picasso or is it Alan Picasso? I think it's David. He's facing David Picasso, who I believe is 32-0. I think he's got one draw on his record. He is the next mandatory for Inoue, I believe, is with the WBC. So once he satisfied the Luis Neri fight, Picasso became the next one, and I think the WBC pretty much jumped the queue, but I don't really remember the actual time frame of all of those mandatories, to be totally honest. So he's facing his mandatory. Junto Nakatani is moving up from bantamweight to have his first fight at super bantam, and he's taking on Sebastian Hernandez, I believe the guy's name is. Yeah, that's Sebastian Hernandez Reyes or something like that. Now that bout, he's tough. He's undefeated, 20-0. I'm not sure of his KO record, but I think it's quite high. I think he's got like a 17 or 18 punch KO record from these 20 victories. So that's not to say that he's been fighting the top cream of the crop opposition, but just like Junto, he doesn't know how to lose, and he is the naturally bigger guy, so that's something for Junto to navigate. But if that wasn't good enough, you've got man like Kenshiro Taraji also on the card. It's a rebound fight, and he's facing, who is Willie Boldo Garcia Perez, I think the guy's name is. Off the top of my head, I think that's what his name is. Now, he's not anything special. Record is very sort of plain. I think it's like 23-6 or something like that, 23-5. But you know, it's a comeback fight after, you know, the last fight he had where he did lose his he lost his flyweight titles. So he's now I believe he's now moving up in this fight to Superfly. So maybe he's going to try and campaign up there to see if he can win another title. Obviously, it was that light fly. He just lost the flyweight title. Maybe making flyweight was a little bit tricky. So he's going to go up to Superfly and see how he does there. But that right there, that's three extreme heavy hitters in terms of the Japanese market. Inoue, Nakatani, and Taraji are basically the money men in Japanese boxing right now. So to have all three of them on one card is dope. Again, because a lot of people won't know too much about the opponents. You might say, yeah, but it's basically showcase fights. But as we've seen, and especially on Riyadh season cards, when you've got the two semi-finals, something always seems to go wrong. Someone ends up getting upset, and that's especially the same with Nakatani and the Inoue at the moment. So it will be very good and interesting to see how that plays out, and basically what happens. Sort of, you know, can both of them stay the course for that big mega match for 2026? All in all, I'm looking forward to it, and the fact that it's going to be at a time zone that I'm happy with and at a price I like. Yep, no complaints from me. Now, a story that's a little bit more, look, some people will call it comical. It does have its funny moments. Some people will look at it as being sad in both connotations of the word. I find it a bit troubling, especially with the timing of it. But Devin Haney at present is suing the mother of his child for basically to return items or return gifts that were given to her in anticipation of their supposed wedding, which obviously hasn't taken place. Now, usually that kind of thing in most places will kind of be laughed out of the court, laughed out of the building. Most people would be like, you know, that's, for lack of a better phrase, lame shit. But apparently, and anyone from America who's watching this, please let me know, something about in California state law, which I believe is where the gifts were presented. If you purchase gifts for someone on the proviso that, you know, like they're basically marriage gifts, and then the marriage doesn't take place, you are supposed to return said items. or I don't know if that's California or Vegas. I heard that somewhere. I need to obviously do some. I would need to do some further research, but to be honest, the case itself isn't really compelling me to do so. Apparently, this is like jewelry, handbags, things of that nature. Now, look, considering here's what I would say, and don't get me wrong, I know full well about being petty enough to want back things that are owed to you. But generally speaking, when it's me, it's always been I've loaned money and it has been agreed that I will get my money back. So therefore, I expect to get my money back. I don't expect you to be doing X, Y, and Z when you've got things to do, and vice versa. Like if I've ever owed money, more time than not, you're not going to see me doing X, Y, and Z or being out and active when I know I've still got basically debts to repay, which is life, right? Well, unless it's the bank, but that's different. But in this one, if you're saying to me that I bought this person gifts on a, based on a wedding, and then the wedding didn't happen, I don't know if I would feel, I don't think that I would feel comfortable enough asking for that stuff back. Like, I think at some point, and look, I know that a lot of, there's a different generation here, but so at some point we've got to bring back shame. And I can't lie, like that's a shameful situation to be asking for things to be returned. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, cool. It was a lot of money, but guess what? Even if you married that person, that's still money that you didn't have. Like you've already, like, you've lost that money now. That investment's gone. Even if you get that stuff back, you still don't even get it back to the full value of which you purchased in the first place. So what are you going to do? Try to sell it on to get some of your money back? The way I look at it, especially someone like Devin, and this again, I'm not going to be in his pockets. I don't know what he's worth, but I'm going to assume, based on the fact that I know he's made several millions for at least the last 4 or 5 fights that he's had, right? Taxes, everything, well, yeah, I get it. But if it's 300,000, 400,000 pounds worth of gifts, or $400,000 or $500,000, $500,000, you spend that same amount on jewelry after a fight. Like, just put it on your taxes as a write-off. Put it as a deductible. I'm sure that you can use that against your tax bill. And in that case, I would just say cut your losses. Even if you get the stuff back, like, it's like, this is like your reputation's taking a mad hit. And this is obviously after the suing of Ryan Garcia, which I agreed with the principle of it, but I understand, like, Devin and his rep took a battering on that, and now it's like more suing, especially after I think there was also one point suing over not being allowed to see his daughter, which, okay, cool, that one, take that to court, I get it. But it's just like, you spending way too much time in the courtroom and not enough time in the ring, and it's just not doing your reputation any good. So for me personally, yeah, like, you gotta nip that one in the bud. Just accept that, whatever you spend, if she's a gold digger, cool, she's a gold digger, she's whatever, she's got your daughter, like, so if anything, tell her, sell that stuff to make sure that your daughter is taken care of. That's how I kind of look at it. It's a very sad state of affairs, but as I said, we've got to try and bring back shame. We've got to try and go back to some of them old school values that us lot born in the 80s and the early 90s have. And once we kind of get to there, hopefully things may go back to some semblance of normality. Okay, a little bit of an interesting exchange happened the other day between Nesta Gibbs from the Boxing Voice and Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, whereby they basically had a shouting match. It was Cape Verde against, where's Nesta from? Is he from Jersey? I think he might be Jersey or somewhere around that area. The two of them just basically having shouting matches over each other, whereby Andrade saying, nobody don't want to fight me, like, I'll be calling people out and they don't want to fight. And then Nesta's like, but you've You know, you had opportunity for fights. You're saying that you're not fighting because people won't sign the contract, but you've pulled out of several fights like yourself. And he's like, well, no, these people ain't trying to fight, and when they want to fight, like, they're trying to outprice them, they're asking for too much money. They're basically getting back and forth, where I heard it, and everything on it made me say to myself, this is actually hilarious, because everything that Andrade is accusing these other guys of doing and saying he can't get no fights because don't nobody want to sign the contract, is like Nesta saying, yeah, but the same thing you're accusing these people of, you did yourself. Like, we've got evidence, we've got proof of this. You had a whole virtual press conference with Zach Parker in the UK and ended up pulling out of the fight and letting John Ryder take the fight, beat Zach Parker, and then get the Canelo fight that you'd been begging for like two years prior. Golovkin was someone that was supposed to, not Golovkin, sorry, Janibek. You were supposed to fight Janibek for your title, and you ended up vacating your title to go move up to have foolishness fights, so Janibek fights for a vacant title. I know that there was a Charlo situation where the Charlo was ducking you at one point, but then also the other Charlo, I think it was Jamal that was ducking you, but you had a chance to fight Jamel Charlo at 154 when you was down there, and you pulled away from that fight. So I'm not sure if there was a Golovkin situation in there as well, but when it kind of gets to it and you say, and he's like, well, but I fought Benavidez, and you're like, yeah, okay, but that's one out of what, 5 opportunities, and that's basically one more so because you were kind of forced to fight that because you had no other options. Who else did you have to fight apart from David Benavidez? And it's still kind of I think he's still got a stat. He's a 2-weight world champion, but he's never beaten a world champion, former, present, or current, or future world champion. He has none on his resume, yet he's a 2-weight world champion. Like, I think that's a stat that only he holds. Now, I could be wrong, but all of that, the difference between obviously him and Nesta just having this shouting match back and forth is hilarious. Now, obviously, I may put the link in the description so anyone who wants to watch it can actually go and see it, but I'd have to find the part of the video which is long. So, and if you guys watch the Boxing Voice, I'm pretty sure you've seen it by now. I think he is on there at the moment, or has had a comment within the last day where he's basically said, all right, let's cut through all the noise. If Christian Mbile, Diego Pacheco, or Lester Martinez, if any of those 3 say they want to fight, guarantee you I'll sign the contract for those. So he's basically saying, I think said those are the people. I think he said he's tried to hold them out and none of them don't want to know. But he's saying, look, if they want to fight, if they got the balls for it, then I'm down and I will sign to fight them. Is he telling the truth? Who knows? All I know is I don't think he's been in the ring now for over 2 years. I think the last time he was in the ring was like 2023. If not, it would have been early 24. But no, I think it's 23. So if he wants to go back in the ring, he needs to get a move on, but it's not looking good. Definitely not looking good right about now. Okay, lastly, we're gonna do basis picks. Now, there's no big cards on, or at least cards that, you know, us as the masses will kind of check out, but there is a Golden Boy Promotions card on Saturday, so we're going to pay respect to that. I could have technically done this on Thursday because there was a No Limit Promotions card in Australia, which I believe was headlined by Liam Paro. I know he got a unanimous decision victory there. There are some fights on tonight. I think they might be via DAZN and the MVP, like most valuable prospects, or possibly the OTX cards, but I haven't done enough research to find out actually who's fighting. I know I've got it in my predictions table, my emails, but I just don't remember enough of the fights there. So look at the Golden Boy card. There's 3 fights in particular that I'm kind of interested in. Some of the up and comers are on there, but there's an interesting fight between Adriana Pinheiro and Gloria Mongia. Now, the interesting thing about this is, based on BoxRec, they are both number 11, but one of them is a flyweight and the other one, I believe, is a light fly. I think Pinheiro is a light flyweight and Munguia is a flyweight. But I believe this bout is going to be taking place at fly. Munguia is 8-1, and Pinheiro is 8-0. I think she's got 1 KO, and I think Munguia has none. But she was also not been knocked out herself. So interesting fight there. I do think I'm going to say I think Pinheiro gets that one. She's the Argentinian, obviously, of the two, so she's gonna have, I believe, the better engine from Munguia, who's I think she's listed as a US citizen, so I think she is from the States. I'm not sure exactly where though. Yeah, but look, it's the light divisions, but I'm gonna go with Pinheiro to win that one. I just think that she will have the necessary work rate that maybe Munguia just won't be able to match. Moving up the card, you've got Oscar Collazo against what's his name? Jason Vason, I think his name is Jason Vason. Now Collazo is what is his record? I think he's 12-0 with 9 KOs, and Jason Vason is 14-1-1, and I believe he's got like 8 KOs or something like that. Now this fight obviously take place at minimum weight. This is Collazo's weight. He's basically been extremely dominant down there as of late. I don't expect this to be any different. Obviously, if you look at the fight differences between the two, one obviously has 16 fights, one has 12, so you've got a 17. You've got a 75% KO ratio one side versus I think it's a be 50% if you incorporate all of the fights, including the loss and the draw. So it's fair to say that Collazo probably is the harder hitter of the two. I believe that he's had also the better competition of the two of them, especially sort of within the last 3 to 4 fights, which is where the majority of his work has paid dividends. So I am actually expecting him to win this fight, and I'm expecting him to win via a stoppage, probably around about round 7 or 8. That would be my prediction for that one. But I think it will be a fun fight while it lasts. I'll definitely be tuning in, probably after WrestlePalooza, but you never know. Last but not least, Gabriela Sweet Poison Fondora is taking on Alexis Kubitsky. Now, some of you may not know about Alexis, but if you used to watch the Femme Files that I put out on the channel, she was one of the females that I had spoken about. Very good movement. She's Canadian. I think she's French Canadian. I believe she's from Quebec. No, she's not. She's from Edmonton. She's from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And but she, very good footwork, very good head movement. She's been asking for an opportunity like this for a little while. Now this one's come on short notice, because she wasn't the original opponent, but she has stepped in to face Gabriela Fondora, who we all know is a certified monster in the female division, 5'9" at 112 pounds. So you guys can see that she's, and but she believes that she could actually go down to light fly if she wanted to. That would be scary, but I think it's about time for her to start moving up. But she's defending her undisputed titles. Now, I think that Alexis is going to be able to pose her problems in terms of Gabriela likes to set her feet. She doesn't really punch while moving. She does like to sort of have a solid foundation under her when she is especially when she's letting the jab go and the backhand. Alexis is a lady that will constantly sort of be moving lateral from left to right, trying to basically rush the pocket. Generally speaking, she does have a little bit of snap on her punches, but I don't think she's got enough snap to really bother Gabriela in that sense. So her best bet is definitely to keep it moving, keep it pushing, try to push Gabriella back, try to get in close, get on the inside of those long levers rather than sitting on the outside of them. She definitely doesn't want to be mid-range, but the outside just may not be a safe place to be unless it's just going out there to reset and have a breather. That being said, Gabriella hits so hard, and she will be able to get Alexis into a position where she's near the ropes, where she can hold her feet, where she can let those straight shots go, and it's the straight ones that are going to cause Alexis the most problems in this fight. The hooks and the uppercuts, she's got very good head movement, so she may be able to slip and roll those ones, but it's the straights when she's trying to pull back out of range, thinking she's out of range and still getting hit with a shot. That's going to be what's difficult for her to deal with. If I remember correctly, she's about 5'3", 5'2", 5'3", whereas obviously, as I said, Gabriella is 5'9", so just those praying mantis like limbs are just going to be everywhere at one point, and I just don't feel like Alexis is going to be able to stay out of the way of them long enough. I think she does get hurt in the fight, but I also think that she does manage to see the final bell. I think she's got enough movement and survival instincts and the ability to not gas out that she will be able to navigate those later rounds when the pressure's starting to pile on. And I think that she'll be competitive enough in those exchanges whereby the referee won't jump in, unless of course you know, it maybe as a what we might call a golden boy special. But yeah, other than that, I do see Gabriella winning. I see her winning quite comfortably and quite wide on the scorecards, especially after round 3. I think but from round 3, round 4 onwards is pretty much going to be all her, and Alexis is just going to be in survival mode, realizing that the task ain't exactly what she planned it to be. But I also think this will be, Gabriella currently has a 50% knockout streak. I think that's going to go down to about 48 at the end of this bout, maybe like 46. So I'm not quite sure how it breaks down, but yeah, that's my prediction there. I do think that Gabriella wins the fight, wins it quite comfortably after a slightly nervy start. But leave your comments down below, let me know what you guys think. So I'm gonna say for right now, that's basis picks locked, and thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and hype the video as well. That's apparently that does something, so I'm not sure what it does, but we'll see. But until the next one, it's Hardcore Casual out.